So the biggest complication that we come across with winter cycling is trying to figure out what to wear every single day because every day during winter is so different from the day beforehand. So you always have to be kind of relearning how to dress for the conditions, which can be really challenging. So it's really important to have the right kit and gear that gives you flexibility as to how you dress. And for this video, we're super grateful that Lameda sent us all of the kit that you're going to see. During Black Friday right now, you can use our code to get 25% off on top of all of the deals that Lameda is running. So they're running stuff where, like, if you buy 2, 4, or 6 pieces, you get more and more discount or
Deals.
freebies. And then on top of that, our code gives you more off. So give that a check.
On top of what they're offering on Black Friday.
Yeah, it took us a while to figure out that that's how this actually was working, and it's pretty insane and nuts. So don't tell them that it's insane and nuts. Go take advantage of it. So one of the biggest requirements that I find with winter cycling is that you have to have a lot of different pieces of kit to choose from because of that variability every day.
And that nuance matters because that can hugely change how you feel on the bike and eventually your performance.
So the first thing that we do when we wake up is actually go and we check the weather and take a look for both the high and low and whether it's going to be sunny, cloudy, but also we're really concerned about wind because wind at 10 degrees Celsius feels very different than wind at 7 degrees Celsius. So not big temperature changes, but a little bit of change in wind can make a really big difference on the ride. I don't know about you, but then I take a look at what type of training I have for that day. So whether I'm going to be doing like a zone 2 kind of easy ride, keeping my body core temperature pretty consistent, or if I'm doing a really hard interval where I'm going to heat up a lot, but then I might chill down a lot after the interval, or if I'm going down a mountain after the interval, it's going to be a very different than a zone 2 ride.
Yeah, and intervals are harder to dress.
Yeah, because you're putting out a lot of sweat, and then if you build up all that sweat and you can't remove that moisture, you're going to chill to the bone. If you start off on kind of the warmer side when you're starting to transition from fall to winter, that like 18 degrees, to maybe like 15 degrees ish, that's where I'm still going and I'm wearing my summer bibs. But I'm maybe throwing on leg warmer, depending on if like there's no sun that day or if there's a little bit of wind. Just to take the edge off a little bit. And then on the top, I've probably switched to like the thermal long sleeve jersey, the 20th anniversary jersey. Like that one's really good.
I prefer the summer jersey with a windbreaker or a gilet. It's slightly thicker than the ultralight windbreakers, but just that amount of thickness, while it's still super packable, that amount is enough for you to modulate in the summer-ish fall weather.
Right.
At high temps.
Right. It's also for me the first. I mean, I've had several windbreakers before, but it's the first windbreaker I've had that actually had the double zip, from the bottom and top. And not that I haven't had good ones before, but this one, like you said, is a little bit thicker. And then when you start running hot a little bit, you can just zip from the bottom, and you don't have to take the whole thing off and having it like flap behind you in the wind, which I find to be really nice. And then it's nice to be able to have. It's basically the same thing, but having like the gilet, the vest, versus the long sleeve. Because if it's like you're just trying to keep your core warm on those days, you can just do the vest. But as it starts getting like those really chilly mornings, I find that my arms get really cold. And if my arms are cold, my hands are cold, no matter what glove I'm wearing.
I think I might be more sensitive to cold than you on the arms. And that's where usually most of the time I just go with a full windbreaker and that works.
Okay, yeah. And then as we start getting into the like more chilly winter, so like the 10 to 13 degrees in the morning, that's where I'm no longer doing the summer bibs anymore, and I'm switching over to like a lighter fleece bib. And I was really impressed that like Lameda's the drift, um, it is so cheap. Like I remember just a few years ago looking for thermal bibs when we lived in Boston, and there are outrageous prices, like over $200 for thermal bibs and stuff.
Yeah, but I feel like Lameda's quality is even better than those.
Absolutely, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and they use thicker and more wicking fleece material.
Yeah, we looked at that and compared the fleece material between some of the other fleece that we
Yeah,
have.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. And it's not just like that, it's also like their zippers are much smoother than others. You can tell just by looking at the zippers
yeah,
and
yeah, they're a lot easier to put on.
right,
Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. And then I'll start trying to make the transition to whether I'm going to do a summer base layer or start putting on a winter thermal base layer. And I'd say for me at least, it has to be under like 8 degrees Celsius for me to throw on the winter thermal. Anything warmer than that, and I'm sticking with the summer because I'm prone to overheat. And it also depends on what type of training I'm doing. So if I'm doing a zone 2 training and it's like 13 degrees outside, I don't need to worry so much about sweat management because I'm not going to be sweating that much. I might just put on the summer base layer and a thermal jersey and bring a windbreaker, the windbreaker with me. Put it on at the beginning, and then as I warm up, I can take it off and shove it in the back pocket.
13. I might do just a jacket and a summer base layer.
Summer base layer, really?
Yeah.
Okay, you're warm enough for that.
Yeah, especially when I'm doing high output.
Well, okay, for high output, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I think usually for 13 I would, even if I'm not doing high output.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then as we start getting colder, this is where it gets really interesting and a little tricky.
That's also where the wind effect varies most for the
Yeah.
same wind.
Yeah, between like that, once you hit that 5 degree
5 to
range,
8.
yeah,
Yeah.
5 to 8 of range, that's where the wind really comes into play. If there's not much wind, it's going to change how you dress. And if there's not much wind, you can almost dress as if it was like 10 degrees, you know? But if there's wind, you need to dress like 3 degrees cooler, like warmer. You want more layer on you. And that's where your layering system really comes into play. So you can go from having the thermal bib with the thermal base layer, and then you can either put on a jacket that wicks moisture really well and bring the windbreaker to put on over the jacket, depending on the terrain that you're going on, mountains, no mountains. Or
Lameda has a really nice shield jacket that is designed to be fully windproof in the front, but highly ventilating in the back and under the arm.
yeah, under the arm as well. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, which
and
is really handy.
yeah, we've tested that in cold, bone cold days. That it actually blocks the wind just as good as a full jacket, but it gives you the whole back covered in warmth and able to dump your heat quickly.
Yeah, yeah. And you can get to the point where you can have like 3 to 4 different layers, like zip, 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 in order to modulate based on as you get colder and colder. And also, I'd say it depends on humidity. So, we've lived in places that have had very wet, bone cold winters. Boston was like that. Minnesota, where I'm from, is like that. But then when we lived in Utah, it wasn't like that at all. It was much more dry, and I never felt like I was bone cold.
The temperature might be the same, but at the same temperature, it's much more tolerable in Utah than in Boston or Minnesota.
Yeah, so we didn't have to wear like as many layers when we were there, and
Especially when each of the peas are so efficient in locking in your body temperature
right.
and insulate you out from the weather. 2 layers.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Each piece of their product is designed to exist for a specific reason.
Right. Yeah, and they can be standalone.
Right.
And then as we get to like under 5 degrees, we'll say like 5 to 0 degrees, that's where you need to start taking advantage of all of your layering, especially if you're going to be doing more steady state efforts, just like zone one, zone two, where your body temperature is staying pretty stable. It's always better, I find, to, especially if you have layers, to overdress a little bit and to be able to remove a layer in order to modulate your temperature and then unzip a little bit to vent more heat if you need to do something like that. You know, the problem is like if you bundle up too much for an interval and you leave the door and you're actually like quite comfortable and warm when you leave the door in the morning, and you're going to go do some hard intervals, you are going to have a problem after those intervals. Because you started warm and comfortable, you're going to get way too hot and you're not going to be able to remove that moisture fast enough. But if you start off a little cold, a little uncomfortable, especially on the days that you have hard intervals, that's kind of a good sign of like, okay, I dressed appropriately.
One other issue with that is if you start too cold, sometimes that I feel like I have more urge to use bathroom if I start a little bit on the cold side. And for women, it's really difficult to actually use bathroom when you're wearing a bib, because when you have to like take a jacket off, take a jersey off, and then take the bib off, and by then you're already chilling.
Yeah.
Depending on what you have done before you reach the bathroom.
Yeah, and depending on the bathroom, like you might not have a place to even hang anything up, and then you're trying to hold it while.
I have encountered bathrooms that they unfortunately didn't have hooks in the bathroom, and I have to like take off the base layer because I was wearing 2 base layers. And then in order to take the base layer off, I have to take my helmet off, and I'm just holding on the thing.
Right. So, I mean, but you've kind of like come across two different ways of kind of handling that situation.
Right. Yeah. I found one of the thing, Lameda's Sunshine Bib, which is designed to have a magnetic buckle in the end. That really helps because you can just unzip easily without taking any clothes off. And what I would otherwise do is just to wear the bib strap, but just have it sit around the hip line and tuck it into the jersey. There's not gonna be any concern of your bib gonna be slipping off because these are all made with highly elastic and stick to skin materials.
Right, right. I mean, there's also the men's has a clip bib as well.
It's a sunshine equivalent.
Yeah.
Whatever that's called.
Yeah, and there's definitely been a time that would have come in handy for me. It took me about 15 minutes to use the bathroom because I had to take everything off and I was wearing so much that day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that layering system for that 0 to 5 actually holds true pretty well down to like -5. The difference there is you might be putting on an additional layer, not just for like your steady state effort, but also for the interval effort as well. And then you might have to be unzipping, while you're doing that effort type of a thing and then re-zip back up. Because the problem that I find is when I do intervals, I do a lot of them on mountains. And you're going up and down the mountain. So going up, you're getting really hot, you're sweating, and then going down, you're like instantly chilling yourself to the bone if you don't layer properly. And then let's talk about your extremities. So fingers, toes, let's include the head in there as well. One thing that I find really, really helpful is when you get under 10 degrees, and especially under 5 degrees, is to wear a balaclava and be able to use it as a neck warmer, but also pull it up over your nose so that you can get warmer air coming in and out of your lungs.
One other thing that I also like about using balaclava is I can somewhat keep my ear open because when you're riding in open traffic, it's really important that most of your sensation about cars coming are coming from hearing, not visual.
So one thing that I like about the balaclava is the ability to be able to take it off. So if you start off early in the morning, say a long Saturday ride, and it's chilly, you can have it on, stay warm, and then by like noon when the sun is out and it's warming up, you can just take your helmet off briefly, pull it off, put your helmet back on, get back going again.
And that's actually another dimension of complication when it comes to winter layering. Because depending on where you are, sometimes the morning can be hugely different, 10 degrees different than later in the day when you have a long out day.
Yeah, so you want to make sure that you have enough pockets to be able to stash stuff in so that you can layer. And that's the nice thing about layering is each, at least with Lamedas, like each layer has additional pockets. So you end up having like 9 pockets or 12 pockets that you can stash stuff in, which is great. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of like just shoving a whole bunch of stuff into my pockets again and again. And then lastly, like obviously I'm putting on a beanie. I don't have very much up here in terms of insulation.
But I actually find, it's even helpful for me to have a beanie.
I know some people like won't wear gloves at all until like 10 degrees. I am not one of those people. My hands will get chilled at like 18 degrees. So I start with a light fleece glove.
I feel like their fleece glove, Lameda's fleece glove is warmer than many other top brands of the same rating.
Yeah, I've been using it down to about 7 degrees. But when we're at those temperatures, I bring a second pair of gloves with me. Because if I'm going to go downhill and I'm in and out of shade and there's wind, I feel like I like to switch to a different, more windproof glove than that.
But did you wear your this fleece one descending when you went down?
I did.
Exactly.
No. You can use it.
Right.
But when I was descending on that, that was closer to about 12 degrees at that point of day.
Right, but what I'm saying is even if this is not rated as a windproof glove, the quality and selection of the fleece is above and beyond comparing to other ones.
Yeah. But then when we start getting to those colder temperatures around like the 5 degree range, that's where I absolutely always have 2 pairs of gloves with me. And I might have the lighter like fleece glove on me, but then I have a thicker wind blocking glove. Not the thickest yet at 5 degrees.
So 6069.
Yeah. You know all the product names. I just know. Take this one, use that one. Because if I'm doing it intervals going up, I'm going to be sweating, and there's no way I'm going to take my gloves off. That's too cold. So I'm going to wear the fleece ones, and that's good regulation for me. But then if I have a 20-minute descent going down a mountain, which we do have, I'm taking those off and I'm putting on the full windproof one for the 20-minute descent. And then finally, once you get to like below 0 degrees, Lameda has a really awesome thick glove. It's the warmest cycling glove I've used.
And I find it's not just the warmest cycling glove. It's even warmer than some of the ski gloves I have.
Right. Yeah. So then getting to toes and feet. So I'm not one to change my socks and actually like put on a thicker sock. I will actually put on shoe covers, and I feel like I use shoe covers a lot earlier than most people, so I use them around like the 10 to 12 degree, whereas a lot of people I think use them closer to that like 5 degree temperature. But for me, it's not just about blocking like the vent holes that are in the front or keeping my toes warm, which is where like a toe cover would come into play. I need to keep like my entire foot warm in order for me to actually feel warm. So
Well, for me, I think my reason of doing the same is when your toes, when your foot, when your extremities are warm, that allows you to stay warm for high intensity, even if you're wearing less on the body and on the leg. At least for me, I don't overheat on the foot with just a bare layer of shoe cover. I won't feel like, my feet is so hot that it's uncomfortable. It's like distracting.
right.
So that's also in a way of just out of mind that no matter what temperature, over warm on the foot is not gonna create an issue versus overheating on the body and on the leg.
And then when it gets really cold, and I'm talking -5 and it's wind and maybe a little bit of like wet weather, sun's not out, those really bone cold days that you're out there on the
High
bike.
wind.
Yeah, that's when we bring out the big guns for the feet. And we have a product that's not yet released on the international market. It's only available here domestically in China, and it's the full booty. So it's a winter boot, and it comes in both the mountain bike, the road cleat, or no cleat option as well. And so you have three options, and it is freaking warm. It's got an overlayer to it and like insulation inside. It's a warm.
It's full waterproof as well.
So if that's something that you guys are actually interested in seeing from Lameda, like leave a comment below, and we'll see if maybe they release that internationally. So there you go, guys. That's our system for cycling in winter. Is the key is to have layers. If you take anything away from this video, that's the key: is have layers and modulate those layering systems.
And in order to properly layer, you do need a lot of different pieces of gear.
Yeah, you need a lot of different pieces of kit in order to be able to do that. So check out that discount code in the description. Get those Black Friday deals, save yourself a bunch of money, and we'll see you guys on the next ride.